Hello, my name is Dr. Ryan Arthur. Welcome to the third session of the Dissertation Club. In this session, we will learn how to write a critical literature review. We will look at the introduction and conclusion sections of your literature review. I believe that these two sections are the most important sections of a critical literature review. I will explain why later. In the second half of the session, I will show you the four most popular approaches to writing a critical literature review. This is a metaphor to help you think about writing a literature review. You are about to go on a research journey to find new knowledge, but before you go, you need to pack your suitcase with the existing knowledge. Not any knowledge, just the relevant knowledge from your research area. When we go on a journey, we only take what we need. A good suitcase should only contain relevant items. A bad suitcase contains everything. Likewise, a good literature review contains only relevant studies. A bad literature review contains everything. Your supervisor does not want you to review all the literature, just the literature that is relevant to your area of inquiry. The two most important paragraphs in your literature review are the introduction and conclusion paragraphs. The introduction paragraph is important because it states the purpose of your literature review. Your literature review must have a specific purpose. You need to explain why you are reviewing the literature. The conclusion section is also important because you state the clarity that you have gained from reviewing the literature. After reviewing the literature, you are in a better place. You have more knowledge now. You can see clearly now. You explain this in your conclusion paragraph. Explain the clarity that you now have. So this is the introduction. This introduction explains the aim of the literature review. This chapter will review the relevant areas of the management literature to find a suitable theoretical framework to use for this project. Very simple aim, very straightforward aim. You want to find a suitable framework to use for your dissertation. In the conclusion, they stated the clarity that they have achieved. They have found a suitable framework to use for their dissertation. You need to show this journey of enlightenment. From the initial aim to achieving the aim, you have reached the promised land. You have a newfound clarity that will shape your study. This is what they are looking for. You need to demonstrate that you have been impacted by the literature. You need to show growth. You need to show that you have achieved your aim. So we should see your development. This is you at the beginning of the journey, and this is you at the end of the journey. You are able to walk upright now. You have the authority to speak on this topic now. You have the authority to put forward new research. So, we will now focus on the aim of your literature review. There are four possible aims for your literature review. These are the most common aims, but I'm sure there are many more. You can adapt these aims, combine these aims, or use other aims. There is no compulsion here. Aim number one, to assess the suitability of a specific concept or a specific theory or a specific model or a specific framework to use for your research. Aim number two, to interrogate a variety of concepts or a variety of theories or a variety of models or a variety of frameworks to use for your research. Aim number three, to find a methodological approach to use for your research. Aim number four, to review the development of a subject area in order to situate your research. Notice that all these aims benefit your research. As I said, you need to demonstrate that the literature benefited your research. Number one, to assess the suitability of a theory, or assess the suitability of a model, or assess the suitability of a framework, or assess the suitability of a concept. This aim is only for students that will mostly use one concept or one framework or one theory or one model to look at their problem. You may engage and mention other concepts and other theories here and there, but you are married to one. 60 to 70% of your time, you are engaging and focusing on just one. In summary, you want to see if it is suitable to use. Is it fit for purpose? Is it suitable? Is it worthwhile for you to use this model? Is it worthwhile for you to use this theory? Is it suitable to help you analyze a particular industry? Is it suitable to help you analyze a particular sector? Is it suitable to help you analyze a particular process? Is it suitable to help you analyze a particular behavior? Is it suitable to help you analyze a particular target group? This is your aim. Your aim is looking at the suitability. Here are some examples. So this student title of a dissertation was utilizing the concept of cultural fit to analyze selection and assessment practices in UK universities. Since the student decided to use this concept of cultural fit to look at selection and assessment practices, they need to interrogate the literature on this concept of cultural fit to see if this concept of cultural fit is suitable to analyze the selection and assessment practices. This student's dissertation was titled Utilizing the Framework of Dementia Care Mapping to Improve the Practices of Care Staff Working in Residential Care Homes. This student needs to interrogate the literature on dementia care mapping. Is dementia care mapping suitable to use? Who else has used dementia care mapping in this way? The reason that you are using cultural fit or dementia care mapping or theory of planned behavior is to give you a deeper and more focused understanding of whatever you are observing. You are using these concepts to help you organize your thoughts. These concepts will help you organize your findings. These concepts will help you organize your analysis. You should see these concepts as a lens. You are looking at the real world through this lens because the real world is chaotic. The real world is anarchic. The real world is messy. Using a theory or a model or a framework helps you make sense of the world. It simplifies the world for you. This map represents real life. This is a more realistic London Underground map. Can you see how messy it is? Can you see how chaotic it is? Can you see how anarchic it is? It is difficult for us to make sense of this map. We find it easier to follow this map. This is theory. This is a model. This is a framework. It simplifies life for us. It resembles real life, but it is simplified. Just to summarize this approach, you may be looking at recruitment practices in high street banks. This is such a broad area. It can be messy. It can be difficult to comprehend. So you use a theory or concept as a lens to help you focus or to organize your analysis. So if I use the critical race theory perspective to look at recruitment practices at high street banks, I may be looking at racial discrimination impacting black and brown candidates at high street banks. If I use the neo-Marxist perspective to look at recruitment practices at high street banks, I may be looking at the socio-economic background of candidates, who generally takes the managerial positions and who works on a front desk. And if I use the feminist perspective to look at recruitment practices of high street banks, I may be focusing on the gender of directors or the gender of the front desk. We need a concrete approach to writing a literature review, so I developed this document. The link to this document is just below the video in the description box. This document contains 4 templates of writing a literature review. So in template 1, to assess the suitability of a theory, or assess the suitability of a model, or assess the suitability of a framework, or assess the suitability of a concept. In this particular template, you'll start with the introduction, very important. You will state the aim of the literature review, which is to assess the suitability of a theory or model or framework or concept. Then you will provide an overview of how your literature review is organized. You provide an overview of the sections of your literature review. So you may say this literature review will commence with a discussion on the development of the theory. This will be followed by looking at the advantages. The 3rd section will look at the limitations. The 4th section will discuss how this theory has been utilized and so forth. After the introduction paragraph, this is where you'll talk about the development of the theory. I mean by this, you document the chronological development of this concept or theory or model. What are the roots of this theory? What are the foundations of this concept? Where is it from? For some reason, most concepts, theories, and models were developed in the 1950s and 1960s. So you should start there at that period, then work your way until the present day. Also mention any contextual issues or real life events that may have impacted the development of the literature. For instance, did COVID-19 impact the literature? Did the dot-com boom impact the development of the literature? Did a change in government impact the literature? A change in the law impact the literature? 2.2. The advantages of using the theory, model, framework, or concept. What are the benefits of using this approach? What are the advantages of using this approach? What is the justification for using this approach? In this section, mention all the positives, all the good stuff. 2.3. The limitations of using the theory or model or framework or concept. What are the problems of using this approach? What are the criticisms of using this approach? What is the limitations? What are the limitations of using this approach? In this section, mention all the negatives, all the bad stuff. 2.4. The utilization of theory or model or framework or concept. Have you come across any other studies that use this concept to observe a similar situation to your dissertation? So maybe your dissertation is using critical race theory to look at the recruitment practice. Are there any other studies that use critical race theory to look at the recruitment practice? Are these other studies adequate, or are these other studies inadequate? If you haven't come across any studies that use a similar concept to you in a similar way, then state how this concept has been used for other scenarios. Maybe you find that critical race theory has been used instead to look at the financial transactions. Document this. Maybe you find that critical race theory has generally been used to look at the metaverse, whatever. Document how this concept has been used for other scenarios. 2.5. Repurposing the theory, model, framework, or concept. So you have read all of the relevant literature now. You have packed your suitcase. You have clarity now. So now you can go forward. So now you can put forward new knowledge. So now you can explain how you will utilize this concept. This is the epitome of being critical, producing new knowledge. And also mention what you will change or adapt from this concept. As we said, models, theories, and concepts are not real. They are not real life. You need to show criticality by adapting models, theories, and concepts to suit your specific needs. Moreover, this is not one size fits all. Your scenario is unique, so it demands that you edit, adapt, and change some aspects of the models, theories, and concepts, and explain your rationale for doing this. Then finally, end with the conclusion, summarize your key points, and state the clarity that you have gained. The second aim is to find a suitable theoretical framework or a suitable model or a suitable theory or suitable concept to use for your research. In this situation, you do not know which framework or which model to use for your research. You find that reading the literature, you find 2, 3, or 5 different frameworks or models to choose from. You are spoiled for choice. So you want to assess several different models or several different frameworks to see which is best for you. A metaphor to describe this aim is an interview. You are interviewing several candidates for the position. You want to assess if they are suitable for the position. Your project is about time management, let's just say. You find that there are several models for time management. So you interview the ABC model. Then you interview the Pareto principle. Then you interview Covey's time management grid. Then you interview the Eisenhower matrix. Then you interview the Alpen method. Then you select one of these approaches and explain why it is the most suitable for your research. This is of course a critical activity because you have to evaluate the advantages and disadvantages of each framework or model. So here are the 5 interview questions for your model, theory, concept, or framework. Number 1, what was the development? Number 2, what does the literature say about the benefits? Number 3, what does the literature say about the shortcomings, the problems, the limitations? Number 4, how has it been used in the literature? And number 5, is it suitable for your study? If it is suitable for your study, explain why. If it is not suitable for your study, then explain why. Number 5 is the most important question. In this question, this is where you make your assessment. And repeat this process for each model, framework, theory, or concept. The exact same 5 questions and the exact same 5 questions. So you repeat this process for every model or theory or concept or framework that you use. Please refer to template 2 for a more detailed breakdown of this approach. Number 3. Another purpose for your literature review is to find a suitable methodology to use for your research. Just a word of warning here. This is the hardest aim because you have to try to not repeat yourself later on in the methodology section. Okay. So in the situation, you have no idea which methodology to use. You are new to research or you are new to the topic area. So you review the literature in your topic area to find a suitable methodology to conduct your study. Every study that you review, you go straight to the methodology section. That is all that you are concerned about. If your topic is looking at the experiences of female mentors, you review similar studies to see how other researchers have researched this topic. Which methodologies did they use? Are these methodologies suitable for my study? If so, why? If not, explain why. I liken this situation to building IKEA furniture. You have the furniture in front of you, but you do not know how to construct it. If you are constructing an IKEA flat-packed desk, what do you need? The most important thing that you need is an instruction manual. Yes, an instruction manual is a methodology. That is all it is. We overthink methodologies. It is just an instruction manual. It is a how-to booklet. Nothing more, nothing less. So you review the various instruction manuals or methodologies. Then you review another instruction manual or methodology. Then you review another instruction manual or methodology. Then you review another methodology. And you review these different methodologies to see which one is suitable for your study. And also to get an idea of the discourse, of the discussion around methodologies within that subject area. Please refer to template 3 to a detailed breakdown of this approach. The last aim is to review the development of a subject area in order to situate your research. You want to find a place to situate your research. You want to find a gap where your research will be appreciated. You may do this by identifying a gap, then fitting your research into this gap. Or you may have identified an exciting trend in the literature, so you want your research to be part of this trend. Maybe you've seen a trend of studies that apply a critical focus, and you believe your work also applies a critical focus. So you want to show how your research will complement this area. You believe that your research will add to this area. When you review the developments, you just review the highlights. Just like match of the day, it's not the whole game, just the key highlights, the key texts, the key scholars, the key events. For instance, you may review Johnson's study in 1960, then Smith's monumental study in 1975, then Jones's influential study in 1995, then Gin's update in 2005, then your much needed research in 2022. You are adding to the existing literature. Your work comes out of this tradition. Your work is inspired by what came before. So if you are using this 4th aim, you may write your literature review chapter like this. You may start with a chronological account of the key texts and key developments of that particular subject area. The subject area could be female mentors working in the IT industry. So you will discuss the key texts of female mentors working in the IT industry. You will discuss the key theories and models of female mentors working in the IT industry. You'll discuss the key discussion points of female mentors working in the IT industry. Also, the key contextual factors or real life events that may have impacted the literature on female mentors working in the IT industry. This section is followed by an outline of the areas of improvement needed within the subject area. After reading the literature, you have identified the limitations of the subject area. The reason that you do this is for critical analysis marks and also to position your research as a means to rectify the limitations. Pointing out the limitations provides a drum roll for your research. So in this section, you should mention all of the limitations and problems with the subject area. The third area is that you situate your research on top of the existing literature. You are standing on the shoulders of those that came before you. You are carrying on the baton. Explain how your research will enhance the existing literature. Or maybe your research will take things in a different direction. Or maybe your research will expand the current discourse, the current discussion. Please refer to template 4 for a more detailed breakdown of this approach. Lastly, here are the 4 aims that we have discussed. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe.